Hello everyone, welcome to your English lecture. All well? Okay. Today we are going to move with Hornbill. Okay, fourth chapter, and what's the name? Landscape of the Soul. Two different angles you would be attracted to here. Landscape, as you know, a scenery sort of, and how is the soul related to that? What? Okay, or we are going to talk something that comes from within. Few artists are there who paints or make pictures, okay, based on the natural scenes and so on, okay, and they, whatever they see, they put it in their canvas. Few are there who draw from or who paint from within the heart. Whatever they see within the heart, they express their feelings on the canvas. So those two things we will see. There would be not trained painters or so on, but then the painting what they put forth before the society, what they show us, that would be totally different from a professional painter. Let's see. Okay, and few, before I start, you see on page 34 we have few words also, few expressions are there. Before I move on to it, okay, the writer is Nathalie Troveroy, okay, and she was very attracted by the Indian landscape and things and so on, and she was a wife of an Belgium ambassador to India, right? And then she was inspired, and that's why she was inspired by what? About the Indian art and architecture and paintings and so on, and that is how she started the writing. She wrote this literary piece. Words, let us see. Anecdote, the first word we have, you have in your textbook, that's anecdote. What's the anecdote? It's short, some short interesting stories, but of whom? Of someone, some real person is a anecdote, okay. Then second expression we have delicate realism. Delicate, you know, very sensitive, okay, and that is what in related to the quality of an art that makes something real. Realism, something that is real. Delicate, very sensitive. What is it? The quality of any art, the way a painter paints, the way a writer writes a story, okay, and it makes the reader involved in the story or the painting. So that is the best part on the part of the writer, and that is what is known as delicate realism. Reality is there. Then figurative painting. Figurative painting means metaphoric representation of some art. That is known as figurative painting. Illusionistic likeness. Illusions, you know, rum. Okay, we dream of, may or may not. In daylight also, keeping eyes open, we could see certain things. Recollecting the past, thinking of something what to do or in the future. Okay, so illusions. So illusion that represents something, that is known as illusionistic likeness. And the last one, conceptual space. Concept, you know. Okay, then conceptual space, that is relation with an abstract representation. Something that is abstract and it is made to understand, others can understand it, or someone tries to make others understand with the base of certain concepts, certain theories. So relation with abstract representation, that is conceptual space. Okay, now let us move on to the chapter. A wonderful old tale is told about the painting Dowsey, who lived in the 8th century. So here we are going to talk about old tale. Tale is a story, okay, and whose story about whom? Story about a painter named Wu Dowsey. And when did he live? He lived in the 8th century. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by the Tang Emperor Huangzhou. Okay, commission means something, some sort of painting which was specially ordered for, and that it was exceptionally kept for that person. So that's known as commission. Okay, and who was he? He was the Emperor Huangzhou. And why did he need it? To decorate a palace wall. The master had hidden his work behind the screen, so only the emperor could see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene. So this painter, what did he do? Because this was exceptionally for this emperor's palace. And so the master, means the painter, what did he do? He had hidden it behind a screen so that no one can see it, and only could the emperor see it, and he could, what did he do? He could admire the beautiful scene which was in the landscape, that is the beautiful scene. And then what he would sit long for a long duration, look at the scene, admiring. And what are the things he would admire? He could discover the forest, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky. That was the scene what was. And he would sit for hours sitting before the painting, and he would admire the painting, the mountains, the sky, the birds flying around, and so on. And what is he saying? Men on hilly paths, bright birds in flight. Birds in flight, flying birds, and people moving on hilly paths. These were all part of the painting or the landscape. Look, sire. Sire means sir. Who is saying? The painter is saying, see, sir, said the painter, in this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells the spirit. In the scene there was a mountain. Foot means at the bottom, end. Okay, bottom of the mountain, the painter was telling to the emperor that, see, sir, what is it? At the foot of the mountain dwells, there's a spirit living here. Dwells means live. The painter clapped his hands and the entrance to the cave opened. And there was a cave also in the painting. So as soon as the painter clapped his hands, what happened? The cave which was in the painting, that opened. And the inside is splendid beyond anything words can convey. Painter said, just come in, emperor. Lord, my lord, come in. Okay, whatever I can say, better than that you can see if you come inside. So he is welcoming him. Something splendid, very attractive is there inside this cave, and I cannot express them with the words. Convey means pass on. Please let me show your majesty the way. And what did he do? Majesty, please you come first. Okay, I'll show you the way. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. And as soon as the painter said that, Majesty, come, I'll show the way, and he entered, and behind he called the Majesty. But what happened is, as soon as he went inside, the door of the cave closed down, and but the entrance closed behind him, and before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painting had vanished from the wall. And the painter went inside, and immediately the door of the cave closed down. And before the the emperor could say anything, what happened? Immediately the painting also vanished off from the wall which was hung by. Not a trace of Hu Daozi's brush was left. Nothing was left. Even the painter who was Hu Daozi, he as well as painting, everything, brush and everything vanished off. And the artist was never seen again in the world. Never was he seen. Such stories played an important part in Chinese classical education. So now I did not tell you in the beginning. Here there's a comparison between European paintings and Chinese paintings. The writer has very beautifully compared and contrasted these two sorts of painting. So this story, what she said in the beginning, what is she saying? These sort of stories, what we have come across, these are very important, or these are sort of stories are seen, or paintings are seen where? In Chinese art or in Chinese educational classical education. This sort of stories are very famous. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. Who are these? These are the disciples. These two, and they help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. These two people, they used to help the masters to take proper decision and so on. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. So, anecdote, I have told you, what is it? Interesting story. And beyond this interesting story, what is the deeply revealed? That is the spirit in which the art was considered. Contrast to this story, the previous story, contrast to that, completely opposite to this Chinese. This was the Chinese story. Now I'll tell you a different story, and he's saying that contrast to this story, another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting with an old story from my native. So what is saying? Flanders, that I find most representative of the Western painting. That was a Chinese story, and that is how the Chinese used to paint, or the subject matter or the theme used to be in Chinese art. Here now different story is there, and what is he saying? It is totally in contrast, different. And what is it? Here a painter drew a picture, but he a picture of what? A picture of a dragon. But he would not draw the eye. Why didn't he draw the eye? Because he had a fear that if he drew the eye, then the dragon would fly out or come out of the painting. And with an old story from my, and this sort of story also prevailed where? In the Flanders. Flanders is what? Flanders is a town in Belgium. So he's saying in the past stories we have seen such. So when the painter drew this picture of dragon, he did not want to draw the eye because he was afraid the dragon would fly out. And I find most representative of the Western painting. So Western paintings were, or the European paintings were this sort of. In 15th century, Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quintin Metz fell in love with a painter's daughter. History, in the 15th century, one person, Antwerp, okay, he was a master blacksmith. He was a blacksmith, and Quintin Metz, he fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father would not accept the son-in-law in such a profession. What profession? He was the son of a blacksmith, or he was a blacksmith. So father was a painter, so he did not want that his son-in-law would be a blacksmith, and so he did not accept the relationship. Then so Quintin sneaked into the painter's studio. He came to know that father will not allow. So what did he do? Sneaked means quietly went inside the painter's studio, and then the canvas was there kept. What did he do? He painted a fly on its latest panel. In the canvas what was kept, he drew one fly, okay? And then with such delicate realism, means so minutely he had drawn every part of the fly was so minutely drawn that it looked as a real fly. So this is what delicate realism. That the master tried to spot it away before he realized that what had happened. And after that, this blacksmith went off, and the father, that is a painter, came inside, and when he saw the fly, he tried to spot, means hit it with something hard and try to make it fly away. But then he couldn't. He kept on doing that, and after that he realized that it was not a real fly as it looked real. It was just a painting. Quintin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. And when he came to know that who has drawn this fly, the blacksmith, so he was very appreciated, and he was very impressed. And what did he do? He called him and kept him as an apprentice, means helper sort of, or trainee sort of, in his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. Okay, he was not a professional; he was a professional blacksmith. Okay, but then after marrying the daughter of a painter, he became a professional painter and became very famous in his time. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve: a perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and the spirit in Asia. So he's saying that these two stories are what? These are a very strong contrast, which shows what? That on one hand, Chinese art, they were very perfect at things and so on. They believed in professionalism and so on. But on the other hand, these European things, okay, they believed in the inner life, okay, and that is the spirit in Asia. That is, this is seen in, reality was seen in Asian paintings and so on, and in Chinese paintings and so on, and the other end they moved on. Okay, in the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. Again, a contrast is shown. That what is it? That European paintings, what do we see? In this paragraph, that how European, there is a comparison between European paintings and Chinese paintings, which is beautifully focused. Now he's saying in Chinese story, The emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. Contrast again, a question also comes. Okay, so he's saying that Chinese painting, when of the we are told the emperor bought the painting, and what is he doing? He keeps on appreciating the outer beauty of the painting as the painter has focus, and he sees in the eye by the or through the eye of the painter, as the painter wants to show him in the painting, the emperor or the one who has the painting before him sees it. But emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows way within. Saying emperor knows to rule the place where he is has the authority of, but artists only know the reality what is dug in the painting. Let me show the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious works of the universe. And so they are saying that artist who has drawn the thing means a master only, or the person who has mastery over a particular thing only knows the thing better than the others. Okay, saying show me the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious works of the universe. See, this is what universe, the world. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. Whatever painting was, it was gone. But then the artist is, after years and years, really remember. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view as would a Western figurative painting. Saying that a classical means ancient art of Chinese. There, a landscape is not meant to reproduce the actual view as it is done in the Western or European paintings. Whereas in European painting, painter wants to do what? In European paintings, painter wants to borrow his eye and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle. Okay, in European paintings, this painter does what? He borrows, he takes the eye and wants to show exactly whatever he has seen. He wants to focus it on from a specific angle. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. Whose Chinese, this is not a real one. Anywhere it is just a scene, anywhere you want or the way you want to express its beauty, you can do that. Artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, and then back again in a leisurely movement. You can take things as supposing a picture of a tree is there. Okay, so the real picture, how a original tree looks, that will be there in that painting, and you can go and move and appreciate it in the manner as you want. And what is he saying? Leisurely, casually. You don't have to break your head. This is even more true in case of horizontal scroll. What is horizontal scroll? Okay, this horizontal scroll is you keep on scrolling, thinking this is an important feature of Chinese painting, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other as the dimension of time, which is unknown in any other form of painting. Okay, you start from one end, then slowly and gradually with leisurely taking leisure, you move on throughout the painting and then come to the other way and come back. That is how the painting in Chinese painting we see the thing. It also requires the active participation of the viewer. Whenever the painting is shown, the participation of the viewer is very important. You should be actively seeing everything. Who decides it at what pace he will travel through the painting? Throughout the painting, what speed you will take, it is the viewer should also be involved in the painting. A participation which is physical as well as mental, means when he is appreciating the painting or looking at the painting, he should be physically present also. Each and everything he should travel, see the mountains, see the trees, experience the thing, and he should mentally be involved or in the painting. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. Okay, the Chinese painter wants to, he just keeps the painting and you see and appreciate it as you want. He doesn't want you to show the painting or appreciate the painting in the manner he has seen it or painted it. He wants you to enter his mind, not the eyes. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and a conceptual space. So, what is this? This landscape is the inner feeling you see. You appreciate it as you want. And a spiritual feeling you experience. And this is conceptual space, means the concept is there. And this concept is expressed as Sansui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the word landscape. Okay, so this is the concept what is seen, and the spiritual and the conceptual space is seen in Chinese painting. So here I have finished. Next part I will continue in the next lecture. A short video I have made. I hope you will like it, and a different sort of subject is before you. Doesn't matter, it's English, but a different sort of a story. Thank you. Have a nice day.